Welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast. My name is Ben. I don't have my usual co-host Madi with me this time around. She's been super busy preparing for her dance concert this weekend, but I do have you with me, and it is great to have you join us for this episode number 158. And this time on Arsenal Kids Podcast, we're going to look at how the women's team have confirmed their passage to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, with still 2 games to go in the group stage thanks to a 1-0 win over Juventus at Emirates Stadium in midweek. And then in part 2, we're going to do a roundup on how a number of players from our men's team have fared, having represented their countries on international duty. So that is all to come. A quick reminder, though, that we would love for you to help us to grow our Arsenal Kids community. You can do that by liking, reviewing, and most easily sharing our content to your family and friends, either by telling them in person they need to listen or by doing so on social media, because we would love for more people to join us on this adventure together. But let's go straight to the Emirates Stadium, where interim manager for the women's team, Renee Slager's name an unchanged side from the North London derby win from the weekend, and in a first half of very few actions. It took until the 24th minute for either side to register a shot on target, and when Juventus corner came out, it was a shot low but straight at Daphne von Domselaar in our goal, who easily stood up to it. At the other end then, Anne Frida Mornham, she fired over the bar from a narrow angle after winning the ball high up the pitch. Katie McCabe saw a cross from the left fly onto the roof of the net before Mariona Cardente lifted the ball over to Caitlin Ford, who went down under pressure in the 18-yard box, but the referee didn't see enough to award a penalty on this occasion. The teams went into the second half with the game scoreless, and you hope that the game might brighten up a little bit after the break, and as the coaches had some time to change up their tactics. And I tell you what, the second half livened up when Leah Volti found Caitlin Ford in space, who put it across the goal, but there was no one there to finish it off. Sections of the crowd on what was a freezing night at Emirates Stadium thought that we'd found the opener when Mariona played a clever 1-2 with McCabe before the former crossed it in for Frida Mornham, but her first time effort went just wide of the near post. But it was Arsenal putting pretty much all of the pressure on as they tried to find that winning goal. There was then a goalmouth scramble following a McCabe corner, and somehow the ball didn't go in before Renee Slagers decided to ring in some changes, with Ford and Mornham making way for Beth Mead and Stina Blackstenius, Stina making her 100th appearance for the Gunners in all competitions. But it was Leah Williamson who then headed over the bar this time as we continued to push for that goal to break the deadlock. There was a bit of a rude shock when Juventus had a player find a bit of time and space. They were able to pick out the bottom right-hand corner, but Van Domselaar got down to parry it past the post for a corner and keep us in the game. It led then to Alessia Russo being replaced by Lina Hurtig with about 10 minutes to go, and she almost made an instant impact. She headed into the side netting following a Williamson delivery. Kim Little was next to fizz in a ball for Hurtig to have another header, but with the goal at her mercy, she wasn't quite able to get her body in the right position, and her header went over the bar. Then, with about 1 minute left to play, Stina Blackstenius put a cross in, and when the defender failed to clear it properly, Lina Hurtig, who had followed it up, was able to intercept and bundle the ball into the net, giving the goal and the lead to the Arsenal. We then had an opportunity to score even another goal as Stina was put through one-on-one with the keeper, but the goalie on this time was equal to her effort. And when the final whistle was blown, it was 1-0. A win to the Gunners, which due to their previous other results in the group, mean that they have now qualified for the quarterfinals of the Champions League with 2 games still left to play in the group stages. Next up, the team turn their attention, well, many of the players anyway, to their national teams as they head out for international duty. Madi and I are looking forward to watching our Aussie Arsenal women in action as they're playing in Queensland later this week, and then they will be back in Women's Super League action in 2 and a bit weeks' time as we've got a home game at Emirates against Aston Villa. Okay, well, let's leave the women's team highlights here in part 1 and we'll be right back with part 2 after this. Okay, welcome back and let's check in on how our men's team players went over the international break, and we'll start with the news of who wasn't involved, and that is England duo Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice. We know Saka couldn't finish the last game just before the break, and Declan Rice has been nursing a broken toe, and so they stayed at home to recover. Martin Odegaard also returned to the club from Norway duty after checking in as he continues to work his way back to full fitness following his ankle injury layoff. But there was still plenty to look forward to as a host of stars hoped that their countries would be able to make it through to the quarterfinals of the Nations League. And it was Trossard who kicked off the Arsenal involvement. He played 90 minutes of Belgium's 1-0 defeat at home to Italy, which leaves them third and unable to go any higher in Group 2 of League A in the Nations League. And he then played 37 minutes of the second game, which was another loss, this time to Israel. But there was an injury concern as he was replaced due to a leg injury. We hope it is not further bad news. Good news, though, for Kai Havertz. He got on the score sheet as his Germany thrashed Bosnia and Herzegovina, securing their spot in the Nations League quarterfinals in style. Kai grabbed himself the third goal on 37 minutes when he linked up well to net for his 5th goal in his last 9 international games as Germany won 7-0. He then came on as a 61st minute substitute in their second game, which ended in a 1-1 draw with Hungary. Big Billy William Saliba, he sat on the bench for France as they drew 0 with Israel in their first game, and then he played the full 90 of their second game as they defeated Italy 3-1. Jurrien Timber started for the Dutch in Amsterdam, played 68 minutes as they defeated Hungary 4-0, and then he was an unused substitute for their second game, with the Netherlands having already qualified for the knockout stages as they drew with Bosnia and Herzegovina. In action then for Spain for their first game. A 2-1 win against Denmark was David Raya in as goalkeeper and Mikel Merino, who played 80 minutes of that game. They were then rested and were unused subs in Spain's second game, which was a 2-1 defeat of Switzerland. In action for Poland was Jakub Kiwior. He played the full 90 minutes in their first game and got an assist in that game, but the Poles were defeated 5-1 by Portugal. In their second game, unfortunately, Poland has suffered relegation as a last gasp defeat to Scotland put them bottom of their group, meaning they will be going down. Kiwior played the full match of that one again in Warsaw. And then last but not least in Nations League action was Alexander Zinchenko. He was an unused substitute in Ukraine's first game, which was a 1-1 draw with Georgia. In the second game, though, he scored for Ukraine as they defeated Albania 2-1, which means they have avoided relegation in Group B1 and actually now have a chance of promotion as he volleyed a shot that was deflected into his path, low into the bottom corner, and he registered his 10th international goal on what was his 70th appearance. In other international action, we had 2 of our 3 Brazilian Gabbies representing their country in World Cup qualifiers. So that was big Gabriel Magalhães, who played 90 minutes, and Gabriel Martinelli, he came on in the 82nd minute as Brazil drew 1-1 with Venezuela in their first game, and in their second game of World Cup qualifiers this international break, it saw Brazil again draw 1-1, this time with Uruguay. Again, Big Gabby played the full 90. Martinelli came on a substitute a little bit earlier, this time in the 58th minute, but neither were able to do enough to help Brazil win this game. But the good news is the men's team, they're now all gathered back together. Hopefully, those who sat out those games due to injury are now fixed, although we do know Ben White has had surgery. He's going to be out for a while. We'll share more about that in our next episode, but we will discover who is back when Arteta names his squad to play the men's team's next game, which is a Premier League home game against Nottingham Forest this weekend. Okay, well, let's wrap it up for this episode. Thanks again for joining us at Arsenal Kids Podcast. We want to express to you our gratitude for your continued support. And if you haven't already, follow, like, and subscribe so you stay up to date and don't miss episodes in the future. Remember, it is your love for the beautiful game that fuels our passion. So please spread that word about Arsenal Kids. We hope to join you back on the pitch again soon. So keep the spirit of the game alive. And until next time, goodbye.